All right. So I am really glad you're here. Warren, you could introduce yourself to everyone who's listening here. For those who don't know me, I am Mark Stewart, and we do these to make sure that people know about not so heralded people who are doing good in their communities. So with me, Mr. Warren Hardy.
Good evening. My name is Warren Hardy, and I am the CEO of H.Y.P.E, which stands for Helping Young People Evolve. The program was started in 2012, and the goal of the mission statement of H.Y.P.E is to build the necessary relationships with the young people in my community that's struggling with coping skills, principles, morals, help them to overcome certain obstacles that may be in their life. And me speaking from personal experience, someone who took a lot of wrong turns as a young person, just taking my responsibility for, the things that I've done and giving back.
Can you fill me in for one? Because I only heard obliquely about wrong turns, but you are willing to talk about it. And I presume you talk about that with kids too. Give us your background.
Well, born and raised in Hartford. Two parents, but living separately. I have two parents that was living separately. I would say at an early age, I struggled in school with reading and writing. A lot of that was due to my home not being stable. I had two parents that was, on drugs. Their drug problem became my drug problem in regards to my behavior, the things that I participated in, things that I did, and things that I didn't do. That probably would have made my outcomes a little bit better. So
did you get through school?
I did. Mm-hmm. I did get through school, but I made it through school by exception. I was passed because of my age, not because of my grades, which means that I ended up, finishing school without getting a diploma, but not knowing how to legitimately read and write.
These days, is that still the case for kids in Hartford, that they'll let kids, because they're 20 years old and they don't know what to do, they'll pass them through?
It's definitely happening.
Now, did the school try harder on your behalf, less hard, or just the same? You're a troubled kid. Do they try and get you in better shape, or they kind of treat you as not worth it?
I don't think, well, I had a school counselor who maybe, she was the school counselor for all three of us, because me and my two sisters at the time went through Weaver High School. So she had a little bit of background about, my upbringing or my home. So she paid attention, but up until that point, no one really noticed, right? It was like I showed up present, but I wasn't present. So I'd had this thing called the check-in, whereas I went to school a lot of times on orange or red. And orange or red means that either I'm having a day so bad that I don't want to talk about it, or I'm having a really bad day in general. So sometimes after probably getting zero sleep, maybe no food, not being able to find clean clothes to wear, who name it, probably after getting bullied or seeing somebody get shot, I went to school with this mindset. So I didn't go to school to learn. I went to school because school was safer than my house.
Who was the first person you ever saw get shot?
How
old were you?
I was about 12 years old. Happened right in my backyard, because where I lived, it was a basketball court with probably, I would say, 15, 20 feet away. And I was suspended from school for fighting in school. And my mom came home and she was like, "You've been home all day and you ain't take the garbage out." So I took the garbage out, and when I did that, it was the guy. He must have got shot probably like 6 or 7 times. And I didn't even think it was real, because he was a big guy and he wasn't falling. And it wasn't until he actually fell. But when I was looking at it, I was close enough to see the bullets going in and the flesh, being torn from his body. So about 12 years old.
And even during high school, you witnessed more shootings. How often? Once a year?
Well, in high school, I mean, it was shootings on a regular basis, because I grew up in the late 80s and early 90s. So around that time, there was a lot of gang involvement. crack cocaine had, made its way into, a lot of neighborhoods. So there was a lot of dysfunction around that time. So gang shootings were like a regular thing.
Were you pressured to be part of a gang?
No.
Now, why did the gangs stay away from pressuring you? Because a lot of black men in Hartford, it's like, be one of us or else.
Well, I don't think more so like if you're pressured to be in a gang, a lot of times that would happen kind of like in prison or in maybe bigger cities where like they're trying to like, like really monopolize like certain areas. And we didn't have, I didn't have that kind of pressure on me. I was in a gang, but more so of my own, choice.
Mhm. Warren Hardy is my guest, the director of Hype. And maybe you can tell us about how you turn your experience as a kid towards helping kids who are in Hartford, teenagers now.
Well, like I said, at the time, I thought every wrong turn that I was making was a bad thing. But it turned out to be a good thing because a lot of young people are struggling with similar situations, sometimes even worse. And because I come from a very personal, standpoint, because that was my personal experience, it actually gives me an opportunity to connect with them in ways that someone who haven't been there might not be able to connect. So I use that personal experience to connect with them, and I go above and beyond every chance that I get to try to establish that relationship because I had a group yesterday, and I had to apologize to the group for whoever lied to them, whoever cheated them, whoever did anything that have them putting up this wall that even if a person is telling you the right thing, you can't receive that because your wall of protection is up. So even though you're using that for protection, that same protection is keeping some good stuff from getting in, and I have to apologize for them for that wall of protection because again, the same thing that's keeping them safe is actually, can get them killed.
Can you give us more about what that wall is protecting them against?
Well, it's protecting them against caring. It's protecting them something. I'll give you this example. When things happen to me as a young person, I always tell people the door was halfway open, right? So what that means is that, it wasn't a secret to everybody. And then now in their time, the door is wide open. So that means that people see it and they're still being blamed for something that happened to them that they had no control of, at all. So because of that, they've built up a wall of I don't care anymore, life is not fair, and they're all in a rush to do a lot of the grown-up things because again, they're not feeling the love. A lot of our young people are lacking the basic needs, a safe home. They may have a place to go to with a roof over their head, but is it a home? Is it a place that's loving and caring and nourishing and a place where they feel safe at? Because mine wasn't.
So when you say in a rush to do the grown-up things, that to me sounds like a good thing. I think there's an awful lot of teenagers that are retarded. They are not being rushed enough. And it seems like as long as they're being rushed to do adult things, wholesome adult things, isn't that good?
Well, a lot of the things that they're rushing to do is a lot of the things that I take responsibility for because I stole cars, because I was in a gang, because I sold drugs. I would gamble on the streets, so that those behaviors have trickled down. So the young people that I'm working with are too young to have seen me do it, but maybe their dad, maybe their uncle, maybe their big brother seen it. So the things that they're rushing to do is those negative things that will get them either hurt or have them hurt somebody. So a lot of these things are taking place in their front yard, in their backyard. So this is all they see, which is one of the reasons that I do the cookouts, so that I can go there and build the necessary relationships. Because I think not just me, but I think most individuals that are going through something in their lives may say, "Why me?" Right? And then that why me syndrome leads a person to start to do things that, go against, what they even would do if they was in their right mindset.
Hype is focused on Hartford. Do you expand beyond Hartford yet?
Hype is focused on Hartford because that's where I'm from. That's where I grew up, and that's where I caused the most direct, problems. But Hype will go anywhere. Hype is not just a Hartford thing. It's wherever I'm needed.
So, what's an event look like with Hype? Not a huge one, but you're talking cookouts
Hmm.
for one. You want to describe some others
So
that you do for young people?
Well, I'll break down the cookouts. So the cookouts are um, in areas that are high violence, a lot of drugs, a lot of poverty, a lot of hurting people. But in the same neighborhoods are a lot of young people who have not been, they haven't picked a side yet. So right now, there's still innocent young kids who are growing up in these neighborhoods they're trying to find their way. So I'm going into the neighborhoods trying to bring some life, some positive, so that the negative that they see, that's not it, right? So, and I've been doing this for a while. So I'm going in. We was doing jump rope, a lot of the old school childhood games, hopscotch, kickball, and things like that with the real younger people. Just engaging them and getting them engaged in something that I'm saying will allow them to be kids and feel good and have fun. So we would go in, and then, but in the same neighborhoods, we have the individuals who have picked a side, and they've picked the side of whether it's carrying a gun or being in a gang or selling drugs. They've picked those sides. And the young kids, again, they don't have the luxury of saying, I don't want to be in this neighborhood because, it can be a drive-by shooting at any time. They live there.
So, at a kickball event, for example, what ages?
The ages for the kickball will probably be, I would say, probably up to about maybe 10, 11, 12
Okay.
years old.
And that'll include some kids that, as you say, have chosen
Oh
sides and
yeah.
they're already
Oh yeah, definitely.
and they're packing heat at age 11.
Um, Packing heat, possibly at age 11, possibly. At age 11, I would say
It's not
no.
kickball.
No, not
It's not my version.
no. The packing heat again. They may be out there, but they wouldn't be like playing kickball with a gun on. They have enough respect for me to not, what I'm saying, do that. And I don't know everybody in every location, but I know a lot of the higher ups who knows that, what I'm saying, I'm there to help, and I'll do everything I can, what I'm saying, to help them. So they are the ones that would regulate a lot of craziness if something was to happen. So I would be there, and then they would also be there to kind of like regulate that as well.
Do you integrate with parents or is it just you and the kids?
Well, the parents are the ones that I'm trying to get, and they have actually played that role to actually do the cookouts. So a couple of the moms, aunts, uncles, they volunteer to actually cook, serve, or do whatever that's needed. You know what I'm saying? And I do work 4 cookouts in 4 different areas at the same time in the city, in an attempt to keep certain areas from looking at this opportunity as an opportunity to retaliate on a person that you might have a problem with, because most times if there's an event taking place and it's not taking place in another neighborhood, I'm okay. Well, I'm going to go over there because I know they having fun, they relax, their guard is down, so I'm going to go over there and I'm going to capitalize on this opportunity. So to keep that from happening, I engage all 4 at the same time, because no one is really going to leave their neighborhood if you got food there. Sometimes you got music there, you're having a good time. You're not going to leave that to go and do something unless it's like really come to that. But 9 times out of 10, you're going to stay put. But someone that's not engaged will. So I engage all parties at the same time to make sure that it stays peaceful. And this is, I'm gonna say, year 6, maybe year 7. I'm not sure. And we've never had an incident, never had a problem, and we're in the high crime designated by the city, by the state. We're in the high crime areas where shootings happen, drugs, poverty on a regular basis.
I'm speaking with Warren Hardy. He's the director of Hype, helping young people evolve. And could you define evolve the way you use it anyway?
Well, evolve means that life is not going to be perfect. There are always going to be obstacles. There are always going to be stumbling blocks, anything that's always going to be in your path. How do you evolve? So my whole core, like around group, is all about teaching coping skills, principles, and morals. So again, I can't guarantee nothing will happen to you, but if I can teach you how to cope better based off of my personal experience, based off of you sharing your personal experience with me, I can tell you. I asked the question to them, how many of you want to live? So everyone raises their hand, right? And then we will draw a list of things that promote life and things that promote death. And a lot of times they fall under the things that promote death. So part of the coping skills is, okay, so if I say I want to live, then I probably shouldn't be, even though I may be in a gang, maybe I can think of a reason not to go out today. Maybe Warren will come and take me fishing or bowling or roller skating or to the movies or take me out to eat. So they need to look at those opportunities. So a lot of our young people need to feel safe with wanting to live, because because of the wall, the majority of them have the I don't care attitude, right? Nothing matters. I don't care if I live. I don't care if I die. When that's not really the truth. That's a front, but that same front becomes their reality, because when you have a bunch of people, what I'm saying, supporting that same attitude, there has to be action taking place, because now the peer pressure is on. So if I got conflict with you and I tell my crew, oh, you wait till I see him, I'm going to shoot him, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So now your crew is like, okay, well, there he is. We want to see you do what you say you're going to do. And a lot of times they fall to that, peer pressure, and end up doing something that gets themselves hurt or hurting someone else.
How long have you been doing this in Hartford?
Well, I started actually doing this in prison, right? I started during my, 12-year sentence. I started this in 1996. I started working with young people while I was locked up. Just, kind of like telling them my story, and they were younger than me. Telling them my story, hearing their story, and then just, letting them know that there was nothing wrong with wanting to live, right? And and it sounds simple, but again, when you're amongst everyone that's wolves or pretending to be wolves, you can't be the sheep, right? That takes, courage to say, well, everybody's saying I don't care, and you're like, well, guess what? I kind of like, I do care a little bit. I do want to live.
How often the kids that really gravitate to you, how many times will they be at a cookout or a gathering? Is this like monthly? Is it weekly? How frequently is he?
Well, I am in the community every day. So I'm out there. It's a way of life. It's not a job to me, because it's a life and death situation. So it's important for me, and you and Victoria and the rest of the community. It's important for all of us. It's not just the immediate community. If you may like a restaurant in Hartford, so you come through there. If I don't, if I don't have the necessary relationships that I need to possibly de-escalate, a shooting or a fight, some of you can get hit, or your family can get hit. So it's not a job. It's a life and death situation, and I got to do everything that I got to do to build the necessary relationships to get to the why. Why are you carrying a gun? Why are you not in school? Why are you out here at this late hour of the night? And the only way you can get to the why is by building a relationship of trust, that when they tell you, they're not gonna be, you're not gonna like put them on Front Street and say, oh, you really do care. You're really not that tough. They really want the guidance, but they want the guidance to come with some kind of like, respect and honor to the fact that they have to do the certain things that they're doing, because other people are watching them.
Where are the police in this? If kids aged 15 are with illegal guns, if families can get, as you say, hit, are the police unwilling to protect these families?
As far as the police and that population is concerned, now we're talking about history of, racism, the culture that, that we're dealing with. Because if I'm hungry, right, I can use myself as an example. So if there's no food in my refrigerator, but I seen, let's just say, JJ selling drugs to put, food in his refrigerator, and it's working for him. And this is all I see as my means to be able to, for me to eat. So now I'm going to, probably do what JJ is doing. So now if I'm out there again and JJ, gets chased by the cops, so now again, I'm two and two together. So I can do what JJ is doing, but the police may not like that. So when I see the police, I might have to run. So the relationship, unless a police is actually like, taking it personal and intentionally, I had made this suggestion, and I wanted to make it to a couple of the police officers. Instead of going up on a person's, in a neighborhood or on a person's block, and nothing's going on, but you're riding through. How about you ride through and pass out some job applications, right? How about you ride through, and some I've never seen it done, right? Unless they do it on a sneak tip or whatever the case may be. But if you ride through and you're trying to genuinely say, hey, not all police officers are bad, right? I got this job, and it's funny because a lot of people that I know are police officers that are good police officers became police officers because they wanted to change that narrative that all police officers are bad. But the problem is that they're being overshadowed by the ones that are doing negative things, and they're not speaking up for whatever the reason is. I'm not sure why that is. So that's a tricky situation when you talk about police and why they're not arresting or why they're not protecting. They're doing what it is that they can, but because of all the systemic issues that affect particularly like urban neighborhoods, their hands is full with doing what it is that they do, and then you have people falling into the trap, whether it's like I said, whether you're selling drugs or carrying a gun. So you're falling into the traps, and so now all of a sudden the police is your worst enemy. And it shouldn't really be like that. The police, their purpose should be clearly stated that I'm here to help and serve, right? Serve and protect, however you want to put it. That should be clear. So even if it takes you getting out, because I believe that if that's your priority, if that's your main goal for becoming a police officer, I think that should be like I said, so this work is personal to me, right? So I make hype don't make me. And I think that in regards to a police officer that's there for the right reasons, I think that, the police officer makes the suit don't make him, so that they should be able to establish those personal relationships. They should be able to go above and beyond to say, hey, I'm not here to arrest you, but I could tell you where to get a job, right? I could tell you a program that, is providing food or providing some after school programs. So these are the type of things that I feel all officers should be capable of doing.
What's the perception among the young men and women who hang with you in these groups of police officers?
That they're no good.
So is it typically parents? They're sending their kids saying, you got to go meet up with Warren today.
No, it's typically me.
Okay.
Me recruiting. They're
and
older.
So you talk, who's older?
They're young adults. They're like between the ages of maybe, I would say, 13, 14, 15 and up.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of them, like voluntarily come. Mm-hmm. They're older. So like, the parents may know that they're coming, but it's not a.
And how do you stay in touch with them?
I'm out there.
Okay. So the word is out that, hey, there's an event with Warren tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's where I got to leave to. That's where I have to go. So at 3:30, I have group.
Gotcha. So do you keep in touch with, you've been doing this a long time. Since you've been doing this a long time, do you stay in touch with kids who are now 25 and they're out employed, or maybe they're in college now? You do. That's good. Do you ever bring them to bring back the success stories?
I do.
That's cool.
I do. Because I'm almost 50, so I understand that there could be, even though I do everything that I can to stay in the know, because that's one thing that would definitely build a disconnect. with you and young people if you're not speaking like you're in the know. They're looking at you like, like you're crazy or something like that. So I try to be intentional about being in the know, but I do every time I get, I'm seeing a young person, and even if you, because it's again, a lot of young people want to do the right thing. Unfortunately, I'm trying to get to the position to where I can house individuals because sometimes the home is actually the problem. So if the home is the problem, that creates that puts me at a disadvantage in regards to being able to really help them. So sometimes, even though young people may be doing some things, like really people really are selling drugs to, feed them and their family. Is it a good thing? No. But are they feeding their family? Yes. So with that being said, I can actually use a person that, maybe not doing perfect things, but everybody respect this person to come in and say, hey, this is that person can even motivate them to come to group, but he can actually speak to them and like, in more of a simpler form than I'm speaking to them because he's closer to them in age.
So what do you say to a kid who is the sole breadwinner for his family right now, and it's because he's selling drugs that he can bring in the money? Stop doing it, or
you try to incorporate principles and morals, right? So you ask that person, do you have a family member on drugs? And he may say yes or no. Let's just say he says yes. How does that make you feel? Well, sad because they're always asking people for money. They're maybe they've lost some kids or they're not they're out on the street begging. So how you make that feel? So no, it doesn't feel good. I'm sad. So how would But you sell drugs. But you sell drugs. So would you like somebody to? You're doing that to other people's family. So you got to tap in because that's what happened with me. Because coming from a home that was drug infested, I couldn't say, hey, I couldn't. I made that my rule. When I went up for parole, the parole people said, well, Mr. Warren, how do we know that when you get out, you're not going to go back to selling drugs and doing all these crazy things? So mind you, I went to jail in 94. I got out in 2000. I had already started turning my life around and helping people, but I had developed principles and morals. And I understood that I was only hurting, I was hurting myself and my community by, selling drugs and taking that path. Even though I could say I had a legitimate reason because my parents was on drugs, I didn't have the proper this or proper that, I still am responsible for what it is that I did.
I'm going to get in a sec to what do you think Hartford needs, but this is related. It took you to being imprisoned to, as you say, develop principles and morals.
Mm-hmm.
What's gone wrong with kids who are not imprisoned and living still with mom and dad? Maybe even it's just one mom, one dad, but they're caring parent. Why aren't they learning principles and morals?
Well, I think they are learning principles and morals, but I don't think the principles and morals are being institute are being what's the right word? Implemented strongly on a regular basis, right? So mom would probably say something or dad would probably say something, but that's the extent of it. Sometimes, again, we're in a community where like, maybe the mom is working two jobs and the father is working two jobs. So the kid is left with the Xbox, right? So, don't do this and don't do that. But then you have all the kids that in that neighborhood doing it. So even though they may be passing down principles and morals, it needs to be repeated. Like you need to be saying it. It doesn't matter whether you're family or whether you're blood related, whether you're a big brother or uncle. Everyone needs to be echoing the same message, and that's what helped me as a young person growing up. It helped me because the whole community could chastise me. The whole community could say, Warren, pull your pants up. Warren, stop doing that. Why? Because we were a tight-knit family, like the whole street, everyone knew everybody. And we have to get back to that. So a lot of times when I'm out there, the cookouts are called Unity, H.Y.P.E Unity in the Community, Stop the Violence Cookout. So building that unity back so your daughter can be my daughter, my son could be your son. And if you need food, you can come to me. If you need a ride to work, I can give you a ride to work.
So I want to announce or let you where people can find you. Unity in the community is something I want to participate in, whether it's because you're a kid who needs Warren, or maybe you'd like to fund Warren in his work. How do you get in touch with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. I also have a website. It's called Hype Hartford CT. You can go on the website. You can look me up on Instagram. You can just type in my name, Warren Hardy. And both of those three main sources. But I would say the best way you can give me a call. I'm a very personable person. My phone number is 860-983-1933. That's 860-983-1933.
You are a community program, and you're not funded by government.
No.
There were community programs that seem to have gone away. Were they government programs that they got funding snatched? Were they private programs? Because it doesn't seem like there's enough programs like yours.
Well, I'm not really, too familiar with those types of agencies. There are some, I'm gonna say programs that's still out there. They are helpful to a certain degree. Programs like CRT, the Village for Family and Children. You have other organizations out there, bigger organizations, and they're kind of like federally funded. So they play a role, but this is personal to me. They're not going to be out there talking to a kid saying, hey, my mom was on drugs too, or, I know what it's like to be homeless, or I know what it's like to be hungry. That's if they do it, they're going to, it's not going to be a part of their everyday routine. So when it's a life and death, again, with me, I'm going to go through, even if I have to go and dig up, old wounds, if I have to, like, stuff that really hurt me and could bring tears to my eyes, if I got to go back down that dark road, I'm willing to do that because I need to save this kid's life. One, because I care about him, but not only that, but I care about the community. And our young people are not, they're not saying, okay, well, I'm going to wait. I'm going to make sure that when I shoot, there's nobody around. 9 times out of 10, they're shooting into a crowd. They're shooting while a car is driving by. And that's, puts the whole city at risk. Martin Luther King's, one of his quotes for me is that what affects one person directly affects us all indirectly. And that's not just true for Hartford, but that's true for, all over, just like the pandemic that we're in right now.
So I saw on your Facebook page several, I think, events where you took a lot of your kids to the Capitol steps, right? Mm-hmm. Describe what you were up to there.
Well, I was just up to capitalizing off of the current event. We have George Floyd situations happening. My uncle was killed by the police. So we have these situations that happen on a regular basis. But this was, because it was so, all over social media, this was an opportunity to give the young people a voice. But not just give them a voice, but try to say, okay, Black lives do matter, but they have to matter to us. They can't just matter to the police or matter to somebody, that really don't care about Black people or people of color. They have to matter to us. So I use that as an opportunity to have a deeper conversation, because not everybody that I took to the rallies were participating in things that were safe for themselves, in general. So this was an opportunity for me to say, okay, we just did that, but Black lives has to matter to us. So what do we need to do for Black lives to matter to us? Simple things. So that was my whole purpose for participating in that, because again, George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, these things happen on a regular basis, but how do we cope with that?
You have specifics about how Black police officers behave with the Black community compared to white police officers in the same community.
Can you repeat that again?
Can you give any specifics about the differences in how an African-American cop deals with that community compared to a white cop on the same beat?
Well, sadly, we do not have a whole bunch of, officers of color in our city. So I rarely, even though I see the interaction, I don't often see a Black cop talking to a Black kid. I'm not saying that I haven't seen it, but I haven't seen it enough to be able to answer that question, like, adequately enough, to give you, the right answer. I've seen the opposite. Now, I will say that I have seen white cops, and so in group, we keep it real. In group, we keep it 100. So because I work with those young people that may have run-ins with these cops, I'll share an incident with you. There was young kids that I was dealing with. They had a car. It wasn't registered, no insurance, and nobody had license. The police, who was a white officer, pulled them over. I went to the officer. He was very polite, respectful. I explained that, hey, these young men are in my program. I'm working with them. Um, what is it, that I can do? He's like, well, right now they're cooperating, and as long as no one has any drugs or weapons, and long as the car isn't stolen, everything's going to be okay. So I told them what he told me, because they were on the defense. They was expecting him to treat them, ugly. So they were ready for that. So I said, remember what we talked about in group. When somebody is showing you respect, you got to give that back, no matter who's looking, right? Because they're outside, people from the community is looking. So now they don't want to feel like, I'm saying, like they're going against the grain, or they're doing something that they shouldn't do, because they're giving the same respect that an officer is giving them. But I was there to make sure that they did that. And again, so they didn't have any weapons, they didn't have any drugs, they just had a car that wasn't insured and wasn't registered. So the officer didn't even tow the car. No one went to jail. So they had to respect that, because he gave it, and he didn't give it because of me, because I don't hold that much weight. He gave it because that's who he was. So again, I don't really have a lot of. I mean, there are some officers of color that work with, the young people, and they'll be like, hey, man, I grew up in Hartford too. You should do this, you should do that. But that's not often. That's not often as I would like to see it. I would think that some of those officers would know these individuals by first and last name, not because you keep coming up on their radar, but because you made it your business to say, hey, what's your name, where you from, that type of relationship.
This would be a challenge for me. If I were part of your group at the Capitol steps and some other people are getting agitated, it's unjust. Where do you draw the line about saying, look, you yourself don't want to get arrested. You don't want to get tear gassed or beaten because a bunch of others around you. Do you instruct kids before going to that kind of rally about what to do?
I do, because again, we had some people saying, F the police, this, that, and the third. So, I quickly reminded them that that's not why we're here. And also, that's not going to, we're here to get a point across. And if you guys are being disrespectful, they're only going to take but so much of that. I said, look around you. We have little babies out here. And at the time we had women out there pushing their babies in strollers.
This is May 30th, the day after the George Floyd killing.
Yes, we had people out, babies out there being pushed in strollers, and a bunch of little kids. So they were all out there. So I had to let them know, like, we got to be safe. And again, it's individuals acting hard, really hurting, and needing a hug. And when you present it like that, you kind of like expose them. But at the same time, there's some relief in that, because it's true, right? So they have no choice most times but to kind of like, like, wow, like, you're actually right, because I wouldn't be so mad if I can get a hug, or if somebody knew my story instead of what's being portrayed, on social media or through the news or newspapers.
I know you got to get to an event of your own. Is there anything more that you'd like to say to those listening and want to know more about either you or H.Y.P.E?
Well, I just want to say that again, H.Y.P.E, it's not a job. It is a life and death situation. One of the things that we need is all hands on deck. We need, no matter where you live at, what color you are, whether you're a police officer, fireman, paramedic, doctor, we need all hands on deck. One of the stereotypes that I would love to change is that when you see a black person in a white neighborhood, he's either lost or he's about to break into somebody's house, which, 9 times out of 10 couldn't be further from the truth. when you see a white person in a predominantly black neighborhood, they're either looking for drugs or they're the police. The only way we, you know what I'm saying, destroy those stereotypes is if we cross over with, you know what I'm saying, the intentions of building positive relationships, the intentions on coming to actual save lives, because it's not a black thing. Yes, black people are, you know what I'm saying, getting killed, but it's not a black thing. You know what I'm saying? If something happens to me, that's going to hurt you. That's going to hurt John. That's going to hurt my friends who are white friends that I love dearly. So in order for us to, like, you know what I'm saying, prevent, you know what I'm saying, that from happening, we have to kind of, like, you know what I'm saying, put ourselves in an uncomfortable position that, you know what I'm saying, maybe our friends and, you know, or our distant friends may not, you know what I'm saying, agree with. But if it's a life and death situation and I'm hanging off a cliff, it doesn't matter whether you white or black. I don't want to die and I need some help. And we just have to kind of, like, you know what I'm saying, look at it from that perspective that we need all hands on deck. And when it's a life and death situation, you don't really wait until it's convenient to come out. You kind of do what you have to do, you know what I'm saying, because it's that situation.
Are there some black leaders in Hartford that you think of as role models that, you know, they got you, but can you point to any pastors or politicians or maybe teachers? Do you do that now?
Yes,
and who would they be?
I would point to Pastor James Lane. I will point to Brother Carl Hodrick. I would also point to who no longer, Andrew Woods, Chuck Cummings, who no longer lives in Hartford, but these were mentors of mine. Deacon Art Miller, do a lot of work, you know what I'm saying, in the community. That's it that's coming to my head as far as mentors. I mean, but we have a lot of young people my age, Dean Jones, Diego Lopez, the Peace Builders program, Larry Love. Again, we have a lot of individuals that's my age that's really taking on the responsibility to risk their lives as often as, you know what I'm saying, they can to bring about a change, because they too, just like I, see it as a life and death situation. And we are literally in the middle of shootouts with bullets flying, and we're there to either take a person to the hospital or stop the bleeding. So, and this is not exaggeration. This is real time happening regularly. So that is the type of commitment that we need. Again, I have 3 sons. I don't want anything to happen to them, but I understand that it's bigger than my 3 sons. So even in the midst of going in a dangerous situation, I can't say, well, I want to see my sons grow up and go to college. I have to do what it is that I have to do regardless.
How do you instruct your kids to behave if they're stopped by police? I'll say when, because it almost always happens. Right. It's inevitable. How do you instruct your kids?
Well, my oldest is 26, so he's aware of how to conduct himself. But my younger 2 right now, I'm not really educating them on that. I'm just trying to get them to not buy into everything that they see on TV, because they're like, not for nothing, but they're like, Trump this and Trump that, and I'm like, you're 7 and you're 10 years old. You don't even know Trump. So my goal is to get them to not believe everything that they hear, because if that's all they see, then they're just going to follow suit with no real rhyme or reason to why they're doing what it is that they're doing. But at 7 and 10, I haven't really talked to them too much about the police. I do talk to them about coping skills. They are part of my groups. They was just at a group with me. My youngest 7-year-old, Taj, he said, Daddy, we create memories that's going to help us cope when one of us is no longer here. And this is a 7-year-old. And he also said, so Dad, what is your job? And I'm trying to explain it to him. He said, so you're a life coach. I said, yeah, so I'm a life coach, right? And he gets it. And he also says, because I actually stated, he was at group and I was letting the individuals in the group know, I said, listen, I don't have a problem with dying for you, but I brought my sons here for a reason. So if I'm going to lose my life for you, I need you to want to live. Mind you, they still have their wall up. So I'm saying this in front of my kids, and even though they've heard it before, after group, I have to explain to them. I said, listen, I know you guys heard me say that I would leave you guys fatherless in an attempt to save someone. But I said the only reason why I would do that, I said, because if you guys as my son, if someone seen you in danger, I would expect the same thing from them. And they got it. They was like, oh, yeah, right. You can't ask a person to do something that you're not willing to do. So they was able to understand that.
Does it seem to you what I have a perception, and I'll admit this is a racial difference, and I don't feel good about it, but it seems like younger black men put up resistance. They argue when maybe they should stand down because there's a gang member with a gun, or there's a cop with a gun, and he might be racist, and he thinks he's got authority. Yet they put up resistance, and it gets them roughed up and maybe even killed.
Right.
Where's that come from?
That's a generation of being tired, right? That's seeing maybe whether it was actually what happened or whether it was what was actually portrayed. And they seen some injustice, and it's just a matter of tired, and you just get tired of, getting pulled over. You get tired of, I don't want to say you get tired of being black, but, that's what it seems like being black brings this type of attention to you. We don't have a list of white people that have been getting gunned down by police. So that, what I'm saying, is like, you kind of like be like, okay, why don't we? Right. So if it's not a black thing, and it's me, what I'm saying, acting hostile and aggressive, you mean to tell me black people are the only people who act hostile and aggressive when being pulled over by police? I don't think so. But we're the ones that's, what I'm saying, are getting, what I'm saying, targeted and being killed or whatever the case may be. So in that situation, I think it's just individuals who are just tired, and they really have given up. Unfortunately, they've given up a while ago. So this back to the wall and the I don't care, because you continue to think that you can't win. So it's a defeated type of hopelessness. So you think that you can't win, and you would rather go out, what I'm saying, screen, I guess, what will be considered tough or whatever the case may be, which is not. But when you're tired, you're tired.
Warren, thank you very much for coming out here, spending your time, and really sharing candid thoughts. I'm really grateful.
Thank you for having me. Again, whatever I can do to help you, because we are all in this together. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to get the word out. I'm hoping that individuals are able to relate to the message and understand that, again, not just our community, but our world is in this situation because of things that, what I'm saying, either we did or didn't do, or our people before us did or didn't do. And we need to take that responsibility.
It may not be politically correct, but I'm with you, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Warren Hardy of H.Y.P.E. I am Mark Stewart. Thank you all. That was good.